Hello! So if you've been with this channel any small amount of time, you'll know that we've been doing a lot of videos on what Blackmagic could do to improve their next camera design. Well, luckily, last night, Blackmagic actually released a new version of the 6K Pocket camera. So with that, let's go ahead and check out what they upgraded, and perhaps if they took up any of the suggestions. Now, what are the primary updates for the Blackmagic Pocket 6K G2? Well, we're mostly looking at a standardization update. So we're basically just bringing the 6K up to the speed of the 6K Pro. With the 6K G2, you now have a flip out screen, you have a new NPF battery system, so it uses the same kind of battery as the 6K Pro. Now previously the 6K had used the Canon LPE6 battery, so I am quite happy that they switched over to the NPF battery. Now, one special note on the fold-out screen, I'm happy that they did include it in this iteration. However, it doesn't have the same 1500 nits that's mentioned with the 6K Pro, which leads me to believe that it is actually a dimmer screen. Now, with the new body and battery system, that means that the accessories from the 6K Pro should basically work on this system. So that means the EVF that was released with the 6K Pro should work with the 6K G2, and the battery grip from the 6K Pro should also work with the 6K G2. So perhaps the biggest difference now between the 6K G2 and the 6K Pro is the internal NDs, which in my book, being that the 6K G2 is only $500 cheaper than the 6K Pro, I would almost in every situation say go with the 6K Pro. Having internal NDs just allows you to move so much quicker on set, or even if you're doing a run and gun type setup. There are very few situations where I would say you don't really need the internal NDs, and even if you wanted to get external NDs, the internal NDs just being $500 more expensive are so much cheaper than if you wanted to get the 4x5.6 ND sets. So unfortunately, we are still having to live with the Pocket form factor, which if you've seen any of the videos, you'll know I'm personally not a big fan of. It is not the pined after box camera that a lot of DPs and creators alike have been asking for. So one kind of odd thing I find about the 6K G2 versus say the 6K Pro is that they're basically the same body size now, which could be nice, and I think they did it so that the battery standardization would be easier. However, it's kind of an odd thing because the 6K Pro is pretty big already, and so making the 6K G2 also that big, kind of an odd thing, an odd choice, especially considering the 6K G2 doesn't have any internal NDs. If you want to go ahead and take a look at my thoughts on some of the 6K Pro form factors and issues I've had along the way, go ahead and check out some of those videos, and that will kind of give you a better idea of where I'm coming from. So luckily the Pocket 6K G2 was not the most exciting thing that Blackmagic announced last night, but before we get to that, if you have time and enjoyed the video, a like is as always very much appreciated. If you want to see more like this, a subscription is also very much appreciated. But if not, that dislike button works extra well if you hit it twice. Now, what's actually exciting? Well, funny enough, Blackmagic actually announced a feature that has been hiding in the 6K, the 6K Pro, as well as the Pocket 4K, and that is a gyroscope. So now with this new firmware update they just announced, you're going to be able to record gyroscopic data in the camera itself, which is going to make post-stabilization much, much better. Now, the results I've seen so far are actually pretty impressive. However, take that with a grain of salt, as it is results coming directly from examples that Blackmagic has cherry-picked. So we're really going to have to wait till we can kind of get our hands on this update and test it out and see how it's going to really be able to say whether or not it's great. But from my experience, having that gyro data can really help you in a variety of applications, from motion tracking to being able to do a lot better post-stabilization. Now, this gyro data will actually be integrated into the BRAW format itself, so it should be able to be decoded by something like DaVinci Resolve without an issue, and potentially other softwares in the future. So we'll have to reserve our final judgments for when the DaVinci Resolve update comes out, but I am very excited about that, and you can start recording the gyroscopic data now, you just have to wait to be able to decode it. Now, I know this was a super quick video, so I really appreciate you guys checking it out, and let me know if you have any questions. You can hit me up down below or on Instagram, as I usually respond much quicker there. As always, I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.